Good evening, and welcome to The Caring View, the online health and social care platform free to access to absolutely everybody. Before we get started, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube and tap that bell. You will never miss an episode or video upload. You can also find our playlist all around how to prepare for the CQC single assessment framework, where we are breaking down each of those quality statements to the finest minutiae and giving you the best top tips out there absolutely free. Follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, X, Insta. I think we're everywhere, Mark. Go and find us on Spotify for all of our free podcast episodes. If that's too much to remember, go to www.thecaringview.co.uk and you can find out absolutely everything on there, including all of our free resources, our free posters, policies, audits, and all of our supplier lists as well. This is absolutely free, does not cost you a penny, and the only reason we can do this is through our fabulous sponsors. So, as usual, as we do every single Tuesday, a quick moment, a huge shout out to the fabulous people that keep the Caring View running. So, Prosperwell, Tea with Toby, we should all know Toby now, Smooth Toby, www.prosperwell.co.uk, the UK's leading digital marketing agency. I'm going to skip the next one just for a little second, and I'm going to go over to Attis Care by Attis Insurance Brokers, the comprehensive care coverage and proactive risk management. www.attisinsurancebrokers.com. Mark, I think we've got something in the pipeline with these guys and Grace Cares coming up in the near future. We have to go to the Care Show to find this out, I believe. So do keep your eyes peeled for that. And last but not least, who could forget the Adonis, the Hercules, the bodybuilding maestro, Paul Blane, and Care Business Associates Training for all of your health and social care needs. Pre-show, I was actually having a conversation with these guys about how I want to take up their CHAPS training. Fun fact, Care Business Associate Training created the CHAPS training course. So if you're going to go find CHAPS training, go to CBAT. But you can find everything from them on www.cbassociatetraining.co.uk. We're very lucky tonight to be joined by the managing director, as well as, should we call him the mind behind it, Elaine, or should we call him the sort of lazy one who doesn't do anything more, Paul Blane? Joining us from CBAT, Elaine, Paul, good evening. How are you?
Hiya, we're good, thank you.
Yeah, I'm really good. I'll tell you what, I was loving that intro music. I was bobbing away there, and then all of a sudden you came on the screen. I was like, put the intro back on, let's run it again.
Oh, well,
and also, how you managed to get all those words out?
It's practice. It's practice. You should see Mark on the Tuesdays. On the Tuesdays I don't do the show, Mark just panics. And I was like, Mark, I can't do the show tonight. He's like, oh my God. Good evening, Mark. How are you?
Yes, not too bad. Not too bad. You?
I'm good. Thank you very much. I am good. I spent my weekend building copper pyramids this weekend. So for those who don't know, who hasn't seen my partner before, he's a like a holistic therapist. He meditates, and I've built like this 1.5 by 1.5 meter pyramid for him to meditate in, and it's incredible, made from copper. I've really impressed myself. I'm getting handy with my drill. I love a good screw, so I'm doing quite well with it. What's the weather like with you, Mark, in Essex?
It looks dry out there at the moment, so it's not been too bad. It's been quite muggy, but yeah, no, otherwise okay.
Sticky,
a hot weekend.
Yeah, it's that sticky sort of weather now. I did promise everybody if it hadn't picked up by the heat, I would put my Christmas trees up this week, and they are not up. So I'm giving summer another chance. I am giving it another chance. So tonight we're talking about the power of a growth mindset. It's something that we all probably have heard before. Heck, 90% of us have probably shoved it into a CV. I think I'm going to be perfect for your role. I've got a perfect growth mindset. But do we know what a growth mindset actually is? Well, I sure as hell hope that our guests do, and that is what they are here to talk about tonight. So, Paul, please give us a bit of a background about why you're here and what we're talking about.
Yeah, so for the last, well, if I date right back, I'm someone that sort of always wants to take on stupendous challenges to push myself outside of my comfort zone, be that in business, personal life, or what I class as adventurous. And one of the studies that I've done probably for the last 20 years is developing what the growth mindset looks like, as well as other things like mental toughness, resilience around that, because that's helped structure how that I'm going to take on some of these challenges. So what I decided about a year ago was that I was going to start really bringing my research to the forum, start to write creatively around growth mindset, look at how it actually figured within our industry of social care as well, And that developed into working a lot with businesses around high performance, developing high performance teams using the mindset of growth philosophy. So kind of here tonight is sort of like on a mission to try and move our industry forward into a growth trajectory mindset rather than a fixed trajectory, which I believe our industry has been stuck in for some time in terms of some of the ways that we do things.
Thank you very much. So I guess before we kick off the conversation, you spoke there around the growth philosophy. Are you able just to give us a bit of a background for anybody watching that growth mindset might be new to them, or it might twig in their mind that actually, oh no, I do this really well, but I never realized this is what it was all about? And I do apologize in advance if you can hear my children.
Yeah, so a growth mindset, in reality is the ability to understand that you can change. If you have the right support and the right resources, that you can improve. Now, that is the opposite to what we class as a fixed mindset. And a fixed mindset is kind of like you believing that you cannot improve, believing that academically you are what you are, and therefore there's no point taking on further challenges. And this was all sort of like the philosophy of someone called Carol Dweck, who sort of like coined defensive and remediation, meaning that someone with a fixed mindset will normally have the attitude of saying, I can't do it, or they'll have an ego that they're trying to protect, or they may look down on others to sort of like try and state their influence within a sector. However, they will never look up. Someone with a growth mindset is someone who, if they were actually looking, if they finish mid-table, this is a good example. If they finish mid-table, a growth mindset person would be looking at the ones above them and be saying, how did they do that? I want to do that. And they would push themselves towards that. So they do a lot of learning, ask a lot of questions, be influenced by a lot of positive things. Whereas someone with a fixed mindset would be satisfied that they did better than others below them. So we kind of want to develop people to move into a trajectory where they are opening up their minds and understanding that they can do something always to improve themselves. And in the end, that will improve others.
I mean, I love the concept of growth mindset, and you know, to bring it down to the sort of basics, and even taking it out of the work element, you can tell whether you've got a growth mindset through your everyday life. You know, my partner and I, we play a lot of Mario Kart. Like, we love Mario Kart, and there's always one level that comes up, and I go, oh, do you know what? I can't do this. And then I sit there and go to myself, no, I can do it. I can do it. I could probably just not do it as good as Stephen can do it, but I can do it. I suppose for me as well, there's that element of stoicism that comes into this, isn't there? Where to have a growth mindset, you have to understand that you're not entitled either. Like, nothing comes free. You've got to be able to work for it. You don't just get for getting's sake, you know. And a lot of people who say they have got a growth mindset will probably also be people who will go, but that's unfair. Why have I not got that now? I've tried my hardest and I still don't have it. And that's a barrier. That's that barrier where it's like, I'm entitled to this, so I should have it. Whereas a growth mindset, from my belief, is, well, I've not done it yet, but I can do it better, and I can do more, and I can do even better at what I do. And you know, I will be remiss, Paul, by saying that you've been the sort of poster child of growth mindset recently, because what we were discussing, you've got the third best body of 45-year-olds in the country. You know, and I will sit here at home and go, God, I really need to work out, and I really need to lose some weight. Wonder whether I can do that. You know, just take to your Instagram, and if you don't follow Paul Blane on Instagram, go and check him out in his tidy whities. But you are that sort of, you can do whatever you put your mind to.
Yeah, I kind of want to always prove that nothing is impossible, no matter what age you are. And a part of that is not wanting to get older. You know, so trying to keep that youth. But there's a lot of it that is influencing my own children. That's the key here, because if they see boundaries and push limits, then the opportunity is it will help them in their growing up as well to know that that is possible. And throughout my life, I've had a lot of rejection, and that's brought about a resilience to say, no, I'll show you, we'll do this. And yeah, part of that has been around growth. But you are right when you're talking about stoicism, when you're talking about the will to want to do something, but the discipline, the resilience, the grit, the determination that comes behind it. It's not just a case of saying, oh, I've got a growth mindset. It's the action that actually you put into play So there's a lot of steps that we can take to do that. But a growth mindset, you maybe have a growth mindset in one area, but not in another area. So it's not a natural thing that you're born with a growth mindset, off we go. A lot of influences that we have in our life actually create a fixed mindset, and we've got to push through those barriers away from that. I can't do this because it's too much hard work, to I want to do this and I want to go on the journey of hard work. So yeah, in terms of the challenge that I took on last year was to actually go into the arena of bodybuilding men's physique, the masters class over 45s, and it was unheard of. Somebody that was just taking this up, through a year's worth of training to get into the top, to get to the British finals, which I did, and came third, and that got me an invite to the World Championships to perform for Team GB. So ultimately, I think I've proven again that don't ever say you can't. You can, but you've got to work hard. It didn't just come.
So Elaine, are you going to get into the world of bodybuilding?
No, I'm not getting up on a stage in my tighty whities for anybody. Nobody wants to see that. But I think there's kind of challenges that you have. You don't have to be stepping on the stage to do that. Obviously, I've taken on a new role as MD for CB18 now. So I've got big shoes to fill, and what a mentor to be able to, show me every single day that we can do. And we do, and it's about striving to always what's around the corner, what's the next challenge, where's the next hurdle, and it's about kind of having that mindset. And I think something that Paul's certainly going to touch on is it quite often is around the people that you have around you within your team as well, that's going to help you get there. But one of the reasons that I wanted to come on this evening was in relation to, where do we learn growth mindset from? My background is children and young people. That's predominantly kind of where my experiences are. And I've done a lot of work with children and young people who have been looked after over the years, where they've been abused and traumatized. And so they haven't necessarily had those positive role models that a lot of us are lucky enough to have. And it's what then shapes their world in order for them to have a growth mindset. I was at the Children's Home Association conference last week in London, and there was some really inspirational speakers on who were lived experience, of the care system. And one lady in particular, Dr. Emma Woodward, I can put a link on after, and she's a care experience, been in foster care since the age of 6. She's kind of world renowned. She's been over into New Zealand. She was trained as a social worker, and now she's a clinical psychologist, and a TEDx speaker. And her focus is all about kind of turning things around to, yes, she might not have had those positive role models, when she was growing up, but the people that she did come into contact with, and she did a great TED talk where she talks about the professionals that she's met in her life that have kind of, the teacher that, shared his flask of tea with her when she was in detention, the social worker that spent time with her, and, when she'd been picked up for shoplifting. And, I've got her permission to talk about her story. She's very open with her story. And you see a lot of young people that don't have the best start in life, but actually incredible in the growth mindset that they have. So really inspiring. So I'm kind of here to, obviously bring in from the children's point of view, really. And it's not, growth mindset isn't something you're born with. It's something that is kind of created within you by the people that are around
who
you.
you're influenced by,
It's definitely bringing in that nature versus nurture debate, isn't it? And, my partner, I won't go into too much details, but didn't get the best start, and is now a business owner, and succeeding, and we own our own house, and it's really, really inspiring. And yet there's people who have similar backgrounds who aren't in the position that he is. And I sometimes get frowned when we talk about things like this on the show, but I'm a firm believer in victim mentality. And I know people go through stuff in life which is incredibly hard and, you know, sometimes really unjust and really unfair. And from someone who had similar things in my childhood, it's a case of, do I let that define me, or do I let my desire to better myself and be the person that I know I should be and I know I can be define me? And it's around not letting that world get against you and go, actually, I'm better than this and I'm bigger than this. And I can turn what was a really negative experience into something really powerful. And I find that people like that are usually the most successful with their growth mindsets, because they've got that trauma to feed off. They've got that trauma to sort of direct them and guide them. I loved when you said, Elaine, where do we learn growth mindset? And it took me back to a show we did a couple of weeks ago around revolutionizing supervisions and appraisals. And I think this is going to be really important for the managers and leaders listening tonight, because we are in that position where we should be teaching growth mindset, where we can be saying to people, look, you know, you've not done the best at the moment, but I'm not going to chastise you for it. I'm going to help you get better. And I'm going to show you how you can get better. Whereas we're very much in a case of, well, they're not good enough, let's fail the probation and let's get rid. And not more about, well, how do we support this person to become better? How do we support this person to have that different mindset? Mark, where are you on the fence with growth mindset? Are you a fixed mindset or a growth mindset kind of person?
I like to think I'm in the growth mindset. And I do like what you were just talking about there, actually, about that we don't just chastise people, and actually we give them the tools and the support to be able to do the job. Because I think all too often we're recruiting, but then we're letting people go out the other end because we're failing probation, but actually we haven't given them the tools, the support. And I was listening to you there, Adam, and also you, Elaine, talking about obviously your journey and obviously the inspirational people. And obviously you've had Paul there that's been a mentor and a role model there. And I just wondered where feedback, and listening to Adam there, where that feedback came in, because obviously there's obviously been times in your career where it won't always have been positive. But how has that spurred you on to push further? And how have you managed to kind of handle that criticism or that negative feedback that has driven you to kind of the managing director that you are today?
Every day is a learning day, and there's been occasions where I have made mistakes because I'm human. You know, sometimes I'm going to make, you know, the wrong decisions. And I think each and every time I'm probably my worst critic and going to Paul, there's nothing you can say that's going to make me feel any worse than I do already. I've cost the business X amount of money, and you know, probably multiple times where I probably could have been fired over the last couple of years, but I haven't been, because it's like, right, okay, not the best outcome. What can we learn from that? What can we do differently? Where do we go from here with it? And I think that's kind of just what you were saying there in relation to, you know, giving people the tools. I've never been a managing director before. I don't know how to be one yet. I'm hoping to be a great one, but I've got a lot of learning in the meantime to do. And so, you know, I'm going to have probably lots of conversations with Paul where we're going to be talking about, you know, that didn't go, that didn't go as well.
Well, hopefully not lots.
Yeah.
No. But I think what you did is you pitched on something very important there. And this is where growth mindset comes from. Growth mindset is leaning into failure as opposed to diverting away from it. Because the only way in which you learn is to fail. You know, I often say to people, a baby doesn't come out the womb and start running across the room. It has to stand up and fall over many times until it masters the skill of doing it. So it's the same with us in life all throughout it. Now, when Elaine talks about making mistakes, I had a choice. Who did I want to be the MD? Who did I want to replace me in the company? And that choice was given through, you know, your dedication, your grit, your determination, your willingness to learn. All of those compounds is what put you at the forefront. But the same token, I then have to give you the ability to fail. Because if you fail, whilst it may be expensive at times, you learn from that, and it won't happen in that remit again. So it can be a very expensive training day, but ultimately you will return that tenfold, 100-fold because of the experiences that you're gaining. Now, if you had, as Adam mentioned, victim mentality, had turned around at every point and said, it's not my fault, it's the team's fault, then ultimately you are not taking accountability for your role within the organization, and that would place me in a completely different position. But because your ability to say, okay, I understand where it went wrong, I understand what I've got to learn from this, then that's the greatest training experience you've ever had in the role of MD. And you will go on to be an amazing MD, I've no doubt, because you have all the credentials to do it. And there is no set criteria to what an MD looks like. If somebody turns around and says to me, this is a job description of an MD, rip it up and stick it up the backside. You know, every day is different, and you're managing a lot of different movements within the business as a result of that.
Oh, Adam,
that's your appraisal, Dom.
I'm going to say
I love that you just said that, Paul, because I'd actually written down here, what on earth is an MD? You know, I have so many people that come to me going, you know, I want to be a manager, I want to be this. Mark and I see it in the chat groups all the time. Does anyone have a job description for a registered manager? How should a registered manager be? How should we do this? Just be you. That's, you know, literally just be you. The reason you've got your job is because of you. So don't change who you are to fit into a mold. I mean, you know, molds are gross. I mean, mold is something that grows in your bathroom. You know, you don't want to fit into a mold. You know, just be you. I also feel like the show could be sponsored by that tub thumping song, you know, by Chumbawamba. I get knocked down, but I get up again. You ain't never going to keep me down. And that's what it's all about, isn't it? So, Paul, you've got some, I don't know what's exclusive was. I believe a book is either in the works or is done. You've got courses coming all around this. And when you discuss, I think you call it the 4 pillars, don't you? So I didn't know whether you wanted to just give us a shameless plug from the BBC, sell yourself, and give us an insight into what these 4 pillars are.
Yeah, so I truly believe in a lot of management training that we're doing in health and social care. It's very much the old tried and tested methods of how do you become more efficient, how do you spend time creating better time management systems and processes, etc., like that. But what it's actually removing is innovation, because what I'm seeing is companies doing the same thing year after year after year, and there's no development, there's no improvement from that. I'm not saying it's for everybody, but those ones that are innovative, those managers that are innovative and disruptive and want to challenge the system and break down doors will be the managers of the future, because that's the way in which we progress. So I started to write very much around my experiences within health and social care. As people may know, I started as a care assistant at the age of 16, went on to become a registered manager, on to a point of owning care homes and operating them, you know, at that, dom care and many other things, as well as CBAT. So I'm kind of like in my mind, I'm the poster boy for me to say that you can do anything, you can start anywhere and you can get anywhere with hard work, determination, but most importantly, when you decide to challenge the system. So the book that I wrote basically focuses on what I class as the 4 pillars that we need to get right in order to institute in our minds a healthy, growing mindset that will help with growth. And that focuses on family first and foremost. Now, what I mean by family is they've got to be on board. They've got to be on side in what you're doing. And you've got to have an open and honest relationship as to what the commitment is going to be for the goal that you want to achieve. And as a family, if you can create a goal together, it is going to help foster a growth mindset, because growth mindset means that we're trying to obtain something. We're trying to go somewhere. So what is it that you're trying to do? In terms of work, we have to enjoy the work that we do. You know, I'm not going to sit here and say that every day is a bed of roses in my world. You know, I operate 5 different businesses, and one of them is abroad. So, you know, ultimately somebody comes on speaking Spanish to me and I'm sort of like, whoa, Rebecca, you need to take this, even though she doesn't speak Spanish. She's going to handle it better than I do. But that fostering that commitment into work to want to achieve and do something is so important. But most importantly is, can you get a team below you that actually have that same mindset, that belief, that value to go after things that are on what they would first of all perceive as unattainable. So I believe family and work are critical to work hand in hand with each other. And then in terms of a social side of life, it's about actually, Elaine touched on it before, it's about getting rid of negativity. in your life. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't take feedback. Feedback is very important in a growth mindset. However, it's got to be constructive feedback that you can do something with, that you want to listen to and you want to use it as part of your learning. There's a lot of people that are negative that don't want you to get anywhere in life. And we tend to find them on things like Twitter and other forms of social media. And if we let them get in our head, then we will not actually progress the way we want to do. So have a look at those that are surrounding you and ask, what sort of influence are they having on you? And also within social, what about your health, your mind, your body, your rest time? All of that fits within our social leisure activities. So you've got to get that right. And then the last one that I always look at is adventure. One of the big things about growth mindset is actually understanding that the brain is a muscle. Now, just to sort of like give you an explanation about this, you mentioned that I go to the gym. Now, if I go to the gym, every time I go and I lift weights, I'm trying to get my body to failure. In other words, it can no longer lift the weight because it's so stressed. Because when I do that, the muscle grows. That's the only way in which it will grow. If I was doing endurance events, like when I used to run a lot of marathons and things like that, you'd take on high hills to run up. And the first time you run up them, you'd be wanting to be sick. Your breathing would become very difficult, and your legs would go like jelly. But if you run up it 5 or 10 times more in the next couple of weeks, all of a sudden you get to the top of the hill without those things. So we have stresses that go on our body to improve us all the time. Now, the stress we feel from a muscle in the brain, we sometimes see that as a negative, a stop point to actually stop doing that. Stress is bad for us, but actually stress is an enhancer at times. So that's the muscle saying, I'm not used to this, I'm uncomfortable, how do I grow from this and how do I develop? If we actually listen to the brain is designed to actually say to us, stop. If I go for a long run, it's telling me to stop. It's reminding me of old injuries in the past because it wants to actually be lazy and conserve itself and just live. So we have to push past that. And it's the same with the muscle in the brain. If we want to get into growth, we have to push to a point where we're actually giving it new experiences all the time that it has to continue to learn and develop. And that's been proven statistically time after time. People that actually put themselves outside of the comfort zone and keep going and are very resilient to it are the people that prosper most in life. And that's the sort of like 4 pillars that I touched upon. And the book is supposed to be getting released in November. I'm still sort of like in a little bit of the editing phase, so it may come into the next year. But it is very much aligning to health and social care. So I don't think there's any book that's been written in relation to this for health and social care, and it will be very good for managers to pick up and realize how they can develop themselves, but also how they can develop their teams.
Thank you very much. And I'm looking forward to that book. So do make sure that you let us know once it's finally out. And obviously we'll make sure that we push it out as well for you. I was just listening to you there talking about pushing past your comfort zone or getting out of your comfort zone. And there will be many people post-pandemic that are stuck in a rut thinking that there's more to life. There'll be many registered managers out there, business owners that have kind of gone through what they've gone through, haven't had that break. We'll see everybody else outside. And I see it with a lot of people that are new into social care, where they've got that mentality of a better work-life balance, where they want that flexible working. And there'll be a lot of registered managers and people thinking, I want that. I want more to life. There must be more than this, and the daily grind and blah, blah, blah. And they'll be stuck in that daily rut. How do they push past that? What techniques could they use to actually change into that growth mindset?
There's quite a well-known phrase that says control the controllables. And it's so important that we do that. There's choices that we have in life and decisions that we make. So how do those decisions impact what it is that we do? So if you've got a manager that's, almost in a way burnt themselves out over COVID, is very tired, and I was involved in the industry at that time, obviously with care homes, it was tiring because the rest of the world seemed to take a bit of a break. And I'm not saying that was an easy thing for them to do, but we didn't. And then when the world came back to work, we were still expected to work. There was no break there for us. So it was easy to burn out. But those same people can actually look at the social side and say to themselves, right, well, how do I actually get my body and my mind into a better position where I can deal with things? And there'll be some people there that haven't gone for a walk and listened to a podcast while they're walking. for some time. COVID restricted us doing that. So go and do it, or take up a challenge that actually stimulates you outside of the workplace. Because I think that can stimulate your brain and your mind will help you develop and come up with ideas and innovation within the workplace. What a fixed mindset would do is create us into a position where we go in and do the same thing day in, day out and have the same problems. So a growth mindset is looking at those problems and going, how can I challenge them? And a typical example of this, Mark, I teach lots of managers up and down the country, be it about the new single assessment framework and CQC, and I know you guys do work around that with resources, or basically how can they actually deal with staff retention and staff morale and areas like that. It's about actually setting a culture of challenge, letting people to get away from the mundane boredom, which is normally what a workplace is. And I don't mean that in a horrible sense, because I don't want to sort of label the word institutional, but we are very task orientated in social care. And we come in and we have the same routine. And sometimes we've got to change the routine to stimulate. And that's the bit where I look at staff and say, well, how are you challenging yourself? One of the things I always do in an interview with a member of staff is say, listen, this is a job role that you're coming in to do, but what can you do aside from that? We have these different positions in the company. Can you actually organize activities, events? Are you going to be someone that's going to get involved in the social media side of it? So in other words, it's not just about the job description. What can you do? And in the care industry, I would say become champions. Right at the interview point is what's your interest that we can benefit from in the workplace and help you achieve. I mean, just on the basis of that, I set out a plan this year for our companies to say, I want everybody to try and work towards a growth mindset because I think it will improve the business as we go forward. And that was actually getting people to address and say what their fears were. So we took on the challenge with some of them of Tough Mudder recently. Now we had people that were frightened of water, frightened of heights, but because we collectively went at it as a team, they achieved. And that's transferring yourself into a growth mindset. And because those people, I'm not saying they've overcome their fear, but you know what? They beat the fear that was stopping them doing that in the first place. And I believe as a result of that, they will go on and do it again and again and again. Now, how has that transpired into work? Actually, I've seen life come out of them. I've seen them look at problems and be more resilient to them, or actually slow things down and go, right, what do we do about this? And within workplaces, it's so important that actually we foster that culture of improvement all the time. And it's too easy to say the word improvement. Actually, what actions are you going to put in place to give the resources and the development to people to improve?
Go on, Adam. Oh, no, I was just going to say, I was going to ask around actually as an organisation. Obviously, that was a personal one that you did as a team, but there'll obviously be ones where you're trying to push your team members professionally as well. And how do you measure that as an organisation? So there'll be some registered managers, business owners listening. I think actually, I really like that idea of stretching goals and having targets that employees have got to kind of reach those. How do you measure the success of those?
Well, I think Elaine in her role will measure it differently now to the way that I would measure it. I actually think a big way of measuring something is the retention of your workplace and the feedback that you receive from others around the employment of those. So I take, for example, in the care home, forget about CQC and the regulator for a moment. Who's the most single important person in there? And that's the person that's staying with us, the person that lives within that facility. So I want a staff team or a team around me that actually sees that and makes that the purpose of why they go into work. So the feedback that I take that's most important to me is coming from the people that live there and the relatives that visit and the professionals that visit that site. If CQC decide to come in and give us a requires improvement because of that, we have to deal with that. But normally that's to do with bureaucracy. It's not to do with the staffing team. So in terms of measurability, we could look at growth in terms of finance and every other aspect that normal businesses do with growth. But I would say happiness is got to be the fundamental thing. I want people, one of the care homes I have, it was the place where people choose to live, choose to work, and choose to visit. Not the place where we want people to, but they choose. So I live that model back the staff team all the time by saying, do you still choose to want to work here? Because you've many choices in life. And if their answer is yes, then they are getting that good work-life balance and they have purpose to what they're actually doing. So it's that sense of that. Measurability can be measured on so many different aspects, but someone actually telling you that they love the job and they love the workplace is the best measure that you can ever have.
And I think on the back of that, kind of where you're setting smart targets for people, supervisions and things where, you know, it might be around goal setting for that individual. So, you know, when we're talking about how are you measuring, it's on very different levels, isn't it? Yeah. From how that individual is progressing to, you know, are they performing better than they were last month? Are they using their initiative in problem solving when previously they weren't? So it's also about, you know, kind of smart targets which are achievable at the same time as helping people grow from an organisational point of view. I think it's on different levels.
There's a great business in America. I can't remember what the name of the business is, but they created a card that they gave out to every employee at the beginning of the year. And I won't swear, but the card actually said on it, "I've effed up." Okay, but fully printed. It went out to every member of staff. Now the member of staff was allowed to hand that in once. Okay, and if they handed it in once and gave the explanation about how they know they effed up, then nothing more could be said about it. Yeah, I'd imagine there was, you know, if you've gone and attacked 50 people, you can't say I've effed up. But the idea behind it was they wanted to create innovation and growth within the business. So what they actually said to people was, if you don't use your card in the year, then that will go against you in next year's contract. So they were kind of forcing them to say, we want you to F up at least once, because that means that actually you're trying to come up with new ideas and foster new ideas. And within a workplace, you can actually set things like that to your staff and say, okay, at every single staff meeting that we have, we want 10 ideas from the team as to how we can improve things slightly. Now, some of them may be out of this world that you can't achieve, but if some of them are sort of like benefits that may just help in their personal life, social life, work life, then you have to be able to listen to them. And if it's doable, do it, because that's encouraging growth and it's encouraging people to want more. And that, I like the idea of the IF card because it's taking responsibility, which is another thing you want to put onto your working team.
I mean, I'm making loads of notes because I love all of this. I think this is absolutely great. I love the IF'd up, and I think in social care we struggle with accountability. I think we struggle to say we've done something wrong, and I think a lot of that comes from people thinking that they're just replaceable. You know, that they're dispensable within social care, especially if we're thinking front line. They don't feel important. They don't feel valued, and that's, you know, it's hugely important that we instill that within our teams. Elaine and Paul, you've been speaking about problem solving, and one of my favorite things is to, if I'm asked a question, I usually ask it back. So, you know, what should we do about this? I don't know. What should we do? You know, you've clearly identified we need to do something about it. What do you reckon we should do? Because I'm going to listen to you first. What do you think we should do? And let's run with that, and let's see how we can fix things. And the controllability is, and I don't. This for me has to come into growth mindset. Is the idea of when we do get faced with problems and we do come up against them, do you find too often people are focusing on the stuff that we can't control? So it's like stuff that we literally cannot change, we cannot control it, but that's what we spend all of our energy on, is thinking about the stuff that we can't change.
We do.
Why are we wasting our time there? Let's think about what we can influence. Let's think about what we can directly change. And then that is going to give you those endorphins. That's going to give you the boost of, oh, I've done something, I've achieved something. Otherwise, we're just wasting our energy talking about stuff that we can't actually, you know, the government, I know we can influence that by voting, but actually that's something that we cannot directly change. The government we have is the government we have. It's what we do and not focus on that. It's what we do that we can then try and change what we need to do. Thinking of social care, you know, we need to change social care. Great. Let's start internally. How do we change our social care? How do we change our model of care to be the model of care that we need it to be? And then how do we influence others on that sort of Twilight Bark effect where other people go, that's really interesting, I'm going to give that a go. Because I'm doing that tonight. I'm taking stuff you're saying. I'm thinking, right, how do I implement this into my service? Because some of this is really great stuff. I don't know whether there was a question in there. I just went on a bit of a sort of. I'm going to finish with the quote and then ask Mark to ask a question. Cognito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. And it is so important that actually we need those sort of really positive affirmations every single day of, you know, cognito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. And if we think that every single day, if we think we can do the best we can possibly do, you're going to do the best you can possibly do. You know, it's really important that you go out with that positive mindset. Mark, save me here and ask a question.
I'll ask a question. Although there has been another quote coming in the comments. So, Think and Grow Rich. But Rejoice has also shared a book that she's found beneficial, which is called The 12-Week Year. So I'll make sure that I share the links to that in the chat. A question for me, and Paul, this is probably more for you, but Elaine also with the Tough Mudder you did. Obviously, when it comes to the change of mindset, you need to obviously make sure that you're in a good place. And we know that when we talk about a good place, we know that obviously you'll hear people time and time again talk around exercise, sleep, your good gut health, your healthy eating. How did you both change that mindset, Paul, especially for you, obviously going into the bodybuilding? That must have been a core part of obviously that. How do people change that mindset? Because there will be a number of people that think, I know I need to exercise more, but then never do it. Or actually, I know I need to get better sleep to prevent burnout, but never do it.
Okay, I'm a big believer that leaders lead from the front. If you're a leader, manager, you are being watched every second of the day that you are in the workplace. You're the influence, the shepherd, if you like. So if you want your team to go in a direction, then you have to be the person that leads that direction. And that takes action as well. So if I want my team to grow, to have this growth mindset, I have to take them on the story, the journey that's going to change the mindset. Now, that's why I come up with the most stupendous challenges that you can think of that will take me so far out of my comfort zone, and people will be able to see the effort and the work that I put in to actually achieve it. Because it's never sort of like, I just want to get on the stage. It's, I want to be the British champion. I want to go to the Worlds. So it's laughable at first, particularly when you say how the time zone you're going to do it in. When you actually go and do it and they watch you sort of like get there, all of a sudden in their own minds, they start to convince themselves that this is possible. There's something that I believe in strongly, and that is everything is impossible until someone does it. Okay, that is such an important thing to remember. And just to sort of like give you a little example of this, if we look at Edmund Hillary, who climbed Everest. Okay, so in 1953, he climbed Everest. Now, they've been trying since the 15th century, since records were begun in this, to climb Everest, and no one had ever achieved it. And lo and behold, he goes and does it. Now, just think about this, 1953, we're only in 2024. So it's not that long ago, really, especially if you're my age, by the way. The younger ones watching this might be thinking, oh my God, the dinosaurs around at that point, right? But it's not actually that long ago, considering they've been attempting it from the 15th century. Now, to date, since that time has happened, there has been over 6,664 people made the summit, and there's been over 11,000 summit attempts that have been successful. When we actually look at Roger Bannister, in 1954, he ran the sub 4-minute mile. Now, they've been trying to do that forever since records began. That's only 1954. In 2019, a man ran the marathon in 1 hour and 59 seconds. The marathon, that's 26 miles, and his average pace time was 4 minutes 35 per mile. So when people say it's not possible, the minute someone does it, it's like the world wakes up and says, we can do this. Someone's done it. And that's what I believe a leader needs to do. They need to break the boundaries. They need to prove themselves consistently, time and time again. They need to put in the effort to showcase those that are looking at them that it is possible, that we can do it. So that to me is the biggest influence that you have as a leader. Now, if they see a leader stressed, unhealthy, not pushing themselves to the boundaries, then ultimately that's what your staffing team or the team that's watching you will become. So be the person that you want your team to be. That's the key.
I suppose,
and I hope
Paul,
I've not insulted anybody by that. You don't all need to clap.
The thing is, if people, and again, I'm probably going to make some enemies here. If you are insulted by what Paul's just said, you don't have a growth mindset. Because you should be listening to what Paul's just said and gone, actually, yeah, maybe I could do better. Maybe I could change the way. I mean, I'm writing stuff down. I'm still writing stuff down thinking, even I can do better. Even I can do more. And I suppose as managers as well, how often have we been sat in an office with other managers? Let's say you're a group or you've got your deputies or you've got multiple managers in the service and you're talking about your team and you go, oh, they're never going to do that. Oh, they're never going to pass the probation. Oh, they're never going to succeed. They're never going to achieve this. You know, oh, I can't wait to sack them after the end of the probation. We're actually setting them up to fail because if we can't believe in them, how are they going to believe in themselves? And it is really frustrating to think to yourself, you know, I've got to put more effort into this one individual, but I'd rather put more effort into one individual than get rid and then have three others that I'm never going to get along with as well. You know, it's all around investing and investing that time. And Mark and I talk about this quite a lot. Train your team to leave you, literally support them to quit. That's the best manager you can possibly be in our mindset, because I don't want you to stay with me forever. I want you to go on and achieve the best that you can possibly do. And you're never going to do that with me. I'm going to help you get there because you're going to benefit me along the way and you're going to benefit the business and you're going to enrich lives and you're going to support and inspire the rest of the team. But, you know, long story short, I don't want you to stay here forever, period. I want you to go out and do the best that you can possibly be. If we're not those managers and we're the managers that say, I don't want you to leave, or I'm not going to put them on that training, because if I put them on that training, they're just going to go off and go get a manager's job somewhere. What are you doing? You know, why are you denying somebody their own growth? Absolutely. If we can't bring that growth ourselves, they're never going to do that themselves, are they?
Absolutely. Just going back to what you said there, Adam, there is Carol Dweck brought this up in a talk that she done, and there's a school in Chicago where they changed the grading system to, if someone actually had achieved a D or below, which would naturally be a fail, they changed the grade to the words "not yet," and that changed the mindset of all the kids within the school, because it wasn't saying you failed, it's just saying "not yet," which means that you can still get this. And what they found by changing it is the following exam that was done, there was one of the highest proportions of pass grades within the USA. And they've continued that model ever since. So she's a big believer in the word "yet." So when we're looking at new starters in social care, or people that we're thinking to ourselves, you know, oh, they're not going to pass their probation. Not yet is a good way to look at it. Not yet. And if we use that language and communicate that language, then we're saying we still need to support you more. We still need to get you through this, because I'm a big believer, and I say this to a lot of managers. If I actually look back at my first 12 weeks in social care, I would have sacked myself. Okay. But look at what I would have missed out on had somebody not given me the opportunity to say, there's something in you that's going to actually make you do something in this industry. And that's the big thing that we need to look at. People develop over time, and not everybody develops within the first 2 weeks or 12 weeks. Some of the best carers I know were getting complained about by other carers, you know, 3 months in, because they were saying, oh, they're too slow, or you know, they've only done so much today. But actually, they're the ones that ended up getting praised by everybody, and that's where the confidence came from. And the ones that actually were making the comments of saying they're too slow, they're the ones that the safeguardings were normally raised against. So you have to look at it from a business perspective and the individual, as you rightly said. But that growth mentality, it takes time to grow.
Mark, I see a campaign in the Caring View's future. CQC, outstanding, good, not yet. You know, that might change the mindsets a lot across social care. Get rid of that required.
Not yet. Not yet.
Yes.
Well, there's definitely a lot of feedback coming from the CQC. They're definitely seeking feedback from providers. So, yeah, anybody watching can give their view. I definitely think you touched on a really good point there, Paul, and it made me kind of reflect on kind of my own organisation, in that we have our annual performance reviews, so a bit like the appraisal, but there's 4 ratings that staff can get. One of them was exceeding, one was met, and then obviously underperforming. But we changed the word met to achieving, just because even though staff had met their objectives, there was still that negative connotation with that word. And actually what they found is actually the staff that then got achieving the following year felt more like actually you were doing something well, you were actually excelling in your job. You might not have got that exceeds. So there is definitely some value in looking at actually the wording within your supervisions, within your appraisals or your performance reviews or whatever tool you're using, and just seeing kind of how staff take those words. And they might not even tell you. You might need to actually hold like a focus group or something, which is what we did, because they might not necessarily come forward and say, actually, I don't find that word very kind of inspiring or positive. Paul, one question that I've got for you, and I know that me and you have spoken about this kind of off air, is around mentors and coaches. And I know that obviously for some of the bits that you've done, you've obviously had a mentor and coach, and Elaine, you spoke earlier around Paul being yours. What role do you both feel that they play? And I guess, Paul, from your point of view, have you got any tips for sourcing a mentor? I know there's a lot of people out there that reach out to us at the Caring View around whether we offer mentoring and bits and pieces, and we signpost them elsewhere. But what role do they play in kind of a growth mindset and pushing you to kind of exceed?
Yeah, huge role. If I just sort of like create the scenario of my life, you know, if I look at what I've manufactured myself, that's the way I look at it. I've basically built myself as to what I wanted to do by looking, learning, watching, asking questions of many people who were much higher than me at some point. Now, some of those questions that I've asked and the answers and responses I've got have made me go, no, I'm not taking that bit from you, but I'll take this bit and I'll take that bit. And you're trying to actually create what you see as the right fit. We've got the Olympics starting. Just think about this for a second. Every single person that goes to the Olympics has got a coach. Now, these are the most supreme athletes in the world who probably know more than their coach. But at some point they had to start, and at some point they need to be held accountable to themselves. And that's where a coach and a mentor can come in. Now, you can use a paid service. What I'd say if you're using a paid service is you have to work out, first of all, what it is that you actually want. You could get somebody like me that turns up to you, but if you've not got a clue what you want, how can we actually develop that? You know, if I turn up, want to learn how to play the guitar, we're screwed right from the start. Or I want to build a brick wall. So what is it that you want? And then pick the mentor and the coach to help you in that area, that arena. And once you've done it, you've done it. You've learned the skill, you can move on. But you don't need to do that. Networking, coming on to shows like this, anybody that's watching this now, I promise you, you've already got a growth mindset. Because you've opened your mind to learning. You've given up time in your evening to actually come onto something and try and gain something from it. It's what you do with that now. So I often say to people who say to me, oh, I need to learn more about imposter syndrome. Go onto YouTube and type in imposter syndrome, and you'll get the greatest speakers in the world talking about imposter syndrome. Yeah, turn off Coronation Street, turn off EastEnders, right? Turn on things that actually are going to stimulate the mind and develop you and help you in your career. So mentors, coaches can be found all over the place for free. What you've got to be really good at with a growth mindset is the ability to ask questions. Because that's one thing as a human being that we have so much over every other animal in the kingdom. We have the ability to turn around and say, Adam, how did you get to where you got to? Mark, how have you managed to get this streaming over so many different arenas? How have you managed to actually get so many views on LinkedIn? And here's the thing, in most occasions, answer the question, because there's almost like a feel-good factor around you telling someone how you've done it. And that's the key thing. Books can be bought at £10.99 from someone who's a billionaire who's written a life story in the book. You know, so mentoring and coaching, to me, I've been coached by books, I've been coached online, I've been coached, and I've been mentored and influenced by many, many different people. But the difference is I've got off my ass to go find them, to seek the information that I need to develop myself. And growth mindset, if I was to actually say, what's the one word that sums it up? Self-development. That's what it is. If you want to self-develop yourself, you're already there. Now push your limits and go find who can help you. I'm
just writing down I'm writing down brownie points for myself. One of the values that we've got at our organization is about being curious. And we ask our team to be curious at all times. Think of that annoying child that's snapping at your ankles going, why? That's what I want to hear. I want to hear that all the time. I want you to be wanting to know why we're doing more. And you are right. Mark and I, the whole reason the Caring View exists is literally just to give that knowledge out to other people. And not even just our knowledge. We get great guests on like yourself who come and just give it out for free. And that mentoring, that coaching, and Mark and I are looking at ways in which people can start documenting now the stuff that they do listen to on the Caring View as their self-development. We're looking at introducing managers revalidations within our organization to prove that growth mindset, to show how people are learning and are improving and are topping up their skills and their knowledge, and asking actually, how can I do more? How can I get better? And stuff like this, and the short-lived but absolutely fantastic health and social care club. All of those things are really important aspects into coaching yourself. And sometimes you can be your own best coach. You can go out there and go, what is it that I need? I know what I need. So let me go and listen. Let me go and talk. Let me go and meet people. The care shows, the trade show, it's great. Go and try and sold a software product that you might use a couple of times and it costs you £300 a month for the next 3 years. But actually, they're really great places to network. They're really great places to meet like-minded people and ask those questions. I've got a manager, and I'm not going to say her name, and I hope she doesn't mind me saying this, but she always says to me, I'm going to ask you a dumb question. And I always go, the only dumb question is not asking one. There is no such thing as a dumb question. The only dumb thing to do is not ask that question. So when you tell me you're asking a dumb question, it's dumb not to ask the question. It might be a question that is really obvious, but actually it helps you better yourself. It helps you advance and it helps you learn. So it's not a dumb question. Like, it's literally, I can never think of a dumb question ever, because we ask a question because we want to learn something and we want to know something. So that for me is not dumb at all. Mark, we're running short on time, but I want to come to yourself.
Adam, based on that, sorry, when we say there's no such thing as a dumb question, you're absolutely right, because when you ask the question, you don't know the answer. Once you've asked the question, you now know the answer. So what's the problem?
Exactly.
Isn't that what you're seeking?
That's the whole point of seeking knowledge. It's the whole point of being curious. It's the whole point of a growth mindset. It's just asking those questions. Mark, we're running short on time, and I'm wondering whether you've got any last questions or many takeaway points that you want to bring from this. And I've just read your message, something about a ukulele, and I have no idea what that means.
When Paul was speaking about that he couldn't teach you to play guitar, I said, I know somebody with a ukulele. Just on terms of the dumb question,
we both know someone with a ukulele.
I think anybody watching will know somebody with the ukuleles. If you need guitar lessons, probably reach out to Jonathan Cunningham. Definitely. I think in terms of the conversation around the dumb question, what I often find is that dumb question is often the question that everybody else wants to ask, but nobody actually asks. And I find that once somebody asks one question, it then inspires many others to put up their hand and ask, especially if they're in a big group of bits and pieces. My final question to both of you is there a daily practice or a daily habit that either of you have that keeps you kind of motivated and in that mindset? Or is it a case of that it's now instilled into you?
That's an interesting question.
I've got non-negotiables that I stick to. So non-negotiables technically meaning these must be done. And that is, I'm on the selected days that I'm routine for that week. And it doesn't matter what day, what time I fit them in, but I must do them. Why? Because that's my 1 hour, 1.5 hours to actually look after myself, think for myself, and be away from the stresses that sometimes can be caused by the outside world.
Yeah.
I also have a non-negotiable that I will go for a walk every weekend with my mum and the dogs, because that puts her time together, away and again for it. And I also have a non-negotiable that everybody that's going to be around me has to have a positive influence somehow on my life. Otherwise, I have to work out why they're there. What's the purpose of them being there? And with those non-negotiables, it makes you reflect all the time and decisions that you make is to, you know, am I protecting those non-negotiables? I'm not. I'd love to turn around and say that I meditate for an hour a day, listening to the ocean lap across the sand at Southport, but it's not really the beach for that, and I think you get hypothermia. But I am somebody that's big into visualization. So I do like, there's moments, whether it's going out for a walk or out for a run or at the gym, where I will start to visualize a problem and how we solve it. And often that's where I find myself actually coming away with potential solutions. So these are things, habits that I put into my life. I don't know about you.
I'm less disciplined than you. So for me, like, I know that I need to go to the gym. So I make myself and go. And I make myself go at 6 o'clock in the morning, 3 times a week, because I've got no other excuses then. I've done it. I've been to the gym. Whereas if I was like, oh, well, I'll go after work, then there'd be something that would come up and I'd find a little excuse there. So I force myself to do certain things, like do that, because I know that that's good for me, kind of mentally. You know, it's good for me physically. It gives me the headspace. Obviously, the endorphins when I have dragged myself there and back. So I think I'm kind of, now you make it look much easier than that, but I'm sure that equally you will equally force yourself to do things
near enough all the time.
So,
but that's the discipline that it takes. You know, if I'm willing to do that, then I'm winning. I'm a big, massive believer that the brain is a muscle and it doesn't want to do anything. So the mind is the power to actually override it. I'm one of these mad people that actually have a name for my brain. So if I think my brain is giving me a visual that I don't like, I will have a chat with my brain about it and try and think of a time where we actually overcame that. And it's amazing how that actually changes the mindset. There's so much more that we could go into in relation to that in terms of therapy lines, etc. But ultimately, it's about me proving to myself every day that I have control over me. And that's the one thing that I can control. I can't control you, and I would not want to control you. But I can control me. I can control my actions, what I do, and my discipline. So, yeah, it may be made to look easy, but ultimately, when the alarm goes off in the morning, I don't bounce out of bed and run around the bedroom going, yippee, it's another day. I've opened my eyes. It's normally sort of like, oh my goodness, we're here again. Okay. I believe we are running out of time, Adam and Mark. So we'll just carry on with natter for another. You go off there.
No, honestly, it's been really interesting listening to you both and that talk of discipline. Mark, what about yourself? Is there anything that you do on a daily basis to sort of push yourself forwards or to do more?
There's nothing that I commit to that I can think of. Definitely not in the level that Paul does. I'm probably a bit more like Elaine, that I'm probably a bit more kind of relaxed and kind of go with the flow. I think I'm more seasonal. So when it comes to spring, summer, I will make sure that I walk the dog every day, and normally for 3-4 miles a day. But the second autumn comes and it starts getting cold, I'm like, sorry dog, you're not going back out until next spring. So I'm definitely more of a seasonal person, and I do find that the spring, summer, I'm a lot more active and a lot more kind of positive mindset than when come autumn, winter, I'm ready to chill on the sofa, get into bed, watch a film, pig out and not do anything. But what about you, Adam?
Well, I don't know. I want to be a bit smug. I think I've got really good sort of will and self-development. I mean, I'm almost a year sober. 3rd of August. That is going to be 1 year without alcohol. I've done it for various reasons, but the fact is that I've actually done it, and I've even survived the trade shows without having a drink, you know. And Paul, you'll remember me and the nights we had lamenting the world at 3 o'clock in the morning with a nightcap of a bottle of red wine, you know. We've been there, we've done that, but actually I took that decision that I want to become healthy. I've lost 3.5 stone since May, and I've done that through myself. No one did that for me, and I did that all myself through strong will and through development. I bought a house, you know, and the house, well, when we got it, was a shithole. Like, there was so much that needed doing, and I was so heavily reliant on joiners and decorators and people coming in to do the work, and them either doing a subpar job or just not showing up, that I taught myself to plaster. I taught myself joinery. I taught myself how to do woodwork. I'm one step away from putting my own radiator up. And I've done all of that through YouTube, through Google, through asking questions, through being curious. And now actually, my house is somewhere I'm really proud to live. And it's even better because I built it. It's better because I've done that, and I can see that achievement myself. So I think I'm really, really good in a lot of angles. But then I do feel like sometimes I let emotions get the better of me. And I have to sit there sometimes and I have to remind myself, people don't make me feel anything. People don't control my emotions. I control me, and I control my emotions. Well, I can't really control my emotions, but I can control my thoughts, and thoughts are what create emotions. So actually, if I control what I'm thinking, I can therefore influence my emotions. But I'm no longer one of these people that go, oh, you've really upset me, or you've made me really mad, or you've done this. Because actually you haven't. You've made me think something, which is then influenced an emotion in me. So I just changed the way I think now. So if someone's being negative, I can go, look, you're more entitled to feel like that, but I'm really achieving stuff here and I feel great. And that's what matters to me. And that then changes those emotions. For me, it would just be saying to people, look, people don't influence your emotions. People don't control your emotions. They don't control your thoughts. Only you can do that. So if you're sad, and again, this is really controversial, if you're sad, a lot of the time it's because of you, because of how you're thinking, and because of how your mind's wired, and because of how you're letting your thoughts control those emotions. Yeah. It's really difficult. Just stop thinking it. And I know that's not for everyone. And I do know mental health is very real, and we've got to be very serious about that. But there is a huge portion of the population who have sort of lost touch with controlling their own thoughts and thinking for themselves and influencing their own emotions. And it's a really important factor in living a happy, healthy life, is to be able to go, I'm happy, and that's enough. And I'm happy because I'm happy for myself. Maybe I'm completely wrong, but that's how I live my life. Are we done? Is this the show? Have we finished? We're at like an hour.
If I can just interject for a second. Oh, okay.
No, interject away. Interject. We don't mind.
Yeah. All I was going to do was say that Mark's done himself a disservice when he talks about seasonal, because you're looking at it very much from a physical perspective. But if I was to actually look at it from other methods of growth mindset, you're the biggest influencer I know on social care. You're continuously writing on LinkedIn and other platforms, and it's continually stimulating the mind and thoughts. So you are doing so much research and reading, and then handing that out free of charge across social medias. Now, it's the consistency that you do that at, because ever since I've known you, you have been that Mr. Consistent, bit like the Caring View. It's been consistent. It's always there. It's resilient, no matter what figures may be viewing or what people may say, positive language, sometimes maybe negative towards certain things. But ultimately, you are continually there in people's life. That's growth mentality. So I actually think you do yourself a disservice, because from an influencer's perspective, there's a lot of people out there that are very grateful to the work that you do, and obviously the work that you do as well, Adam.
Oh, no, don't bring me into it. Oh, Christ, I learn from Mark every single week. Sorry, Elaine.
And I think with that as well, you don't necessarily have to, climb Everest. No. You don't have to get your kit off on a stage. It's that mindset of tomorrow, if I can do better than I did today.
Yeah.
That's what growth mindset is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, you finally got it.
I've got it, yeah.
Oh, my days. Well, what a way to finish. Don't keep up with the Joneses. Don't look at what everyone else is doing. Just focus on what you're doing, and that's what matters. Absolutely love it. I think tonight has been an absolutely great show. Paul, I know you're going to come back soon and talk. I'm terrible with what we're talking about, but I know you're going to come back and give us more wisdom for free, which is going to be great. Mark, help me out.
Oh, Paul, help me out. Paul is back next week.
Yeah,
I know 50% of it.
Yeah, I think I'm going to come back.
Yeah.
So I'd like to sort of like look at this as a part one. Part two will be very much focusing on that mental toughness, the 4 domains to it, and all of that leads into growth mindset anyway. So it's something that you have to practice doing in order to encourage your mind to grow. So part 2 next week.
Part 2 next week. Do not miss out. So everybody, that's it. Set your reminders. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We will go live at 7:30 next week, where we are discussing even more fabulous knowledge from the fabulous Paul Blane. Before we close out, I have to give one last shout out to our sponsors. So a huge thank you to Prosperwell, the UK's leading digital marketing agency, www.prosperwell.co.uk. It is on your screen right now. Attis Care by Attis Insurance Brokers. We all hate insurance, but we need it. Go check these guys out. They will help you along the way. And if you have got a growth mindset and your team have got a growth mindset and they want to learn and they want to do better, go to CBAT, Care Business Associate Training, CB Associating Training.co.uk for all of your health and social care needs. Paul, Elaine, can we just take this opportunity to say a huge thank you for your support to the Caring View? Like at the beginning of this year, Mark and I were actually questioning whether this was going to be viable and whether we could continue. I think we had about 50 quid in the bank and that was it. And this doesn't come cheap. You know, a lot of the stuff we have to pay. It's scary, but through yourselves and through our other sponsors, you're helping us continue doing what we love doing and giving this knowledge out for free for everybody else. So I just want to say a huge thank you for your continued support. And when Mark and I say this and we say go and check out these people, we don't just get sponsored by anybody. We are quite picky. You know, we choose the best of the best, the creme de la creme. So please do go check out Care Business Associate Training. They are amazing. And they are back next week. Paul, you will be joining us next week live at 7:30, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. Did I say X or did I say Twitter? I can't remember. I can't get with that branding. I just can't with it. But until then, please stay safe. Have a good evening. Be curious. Go out there. Be affirmating and be the best that you can be. Good night.
No, thank you very much, both of you.